everyone, my name's Rachel and today we are, kind of oddly, going to be talking about swearing. If you guys don't know, I'm not really much of a swearer myself. Sometimes when I'm very, very angry, like, the odd word will slip out and I'll be like, "Arr." That's when Dan kind of knows I'm serious about something. He's like, "Oh, okay, we need to fix this." Like, if a swear word slips out. But it's not something I say often. No particular reason why. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't feel very me to swear. It's not something I'm hugely comfortable doing. That said, I have no issues with anyone else swearing. I grew up with it. My brother is quite the swearer. At least he was in my childhood. My parents aren't really too sweary, but, you know, it sometimes slips out sometimes with them. Dan's not a big swearer, but, you know, if he dies in a computer game or something, the odd swear word will slip out. So that's kind of the influence swearing has on my life, or doesn't have on my life. It's not a big thing. Anyway, this is meant to be just background to the topic of today's video, which is inspired by a thread I saw on my Facebook newsfeed today. Now, a little bit of context. I somehow got, added to this weird Christian Bible group on Facebook, and I didn't accept the adding, but I didn't decline it either because I didn't want to seem rude. And now just their posts show up on my newsfeed for some annoying reason, and every so often I read them because they just seem so bizarre to me. There was this huge thing a while back, if you follow me on Twitter you might have seen it, where they were talking about is yoga evil and weird stuff like that, and I found it really weird. But today I saw a thread about swearing, and some of the answers again just seemed a little bizarre to me, and I found it really interesting because some of the answers that people gave is not something I've ever experienced before. I've never known people like this in real life, and so today I thought it might be quite interesting to have a read through some of these thoughts that actual Christian people have on swearing, and we can just have a little bit of a discussion about it. Obviously I will show you the posts, but I'm going to be covering up the name of the Facebook group and the people involved, obviously, because it wouldn't be fair to share them, I don't think. So the original post says this: "This might be a strange question, but I want to ask anyway. First, an observation. Almost every single one of my Christian friends, sincerely devout, knowledgeable, and open with their faith, use foul language. They act like it's totally normal. Am I being overly sensitive? I rarely use that type of language and would never dream of talking like that with people who know that I'm a Christian. Do I have some sort of old-fashioned sensitivity? I'm not asking a deep theological question, just a generic one. Do you cuss?" Honestly, I'm just going to say to this person, don't feel bad about asking this. Just because something isn't deep and theological doesn't mean it's any less important. I mean, I'm an atheist, but I think the questions about how you live your everyday life and how you use your belief or lack of belief to influence who you are as a person, I think they're very important questions, and I don't think you should feel bad about asking this kind of thing. That said, just from my personal opinion, I don't think whether someone swears or not has anything to do with whether they're a good or bad person. But let's have a read through some of the answers that people gave on this thread. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds of people answering here, but the kind of linking thread between them all is that they're all Christian. This person posted 2 posts, and they read, "Let no wholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification according to the need of the moment, that it may give grace to those who hear. No, I don't use foul language. Sometimes I think it could make people laugh more if I did, but my conscience won't allow it." And then a second person replied with, "I'm the same, I just can't, thank you Lord." I find this really bizarre that people would feel such an intense guilt over something as what I see as inconsequential as swearing. I don't know, it feels really bizarre to me that people place that much importance on what are essentially just words. I think it comes back to this whole intent type thing. If you're just kind of throwing around swear words for comedic effect, for example, or because you're angry at something, or because you just think it expresses your point better, I don't understand why you'd have any guilt over that. That said, if you are throwing around insulting terms with the intent to hurt someone's feelings, for example, if you do say the N-word, to a black person with the intent of hurting their feelings, yeah, feel bad about that, because that's a sucky thing to do. But if you're just saying, like, oh, F this or F that, I don't see why you'd feel guilty about that. So this was a really kind of interesting perspective to me. And also the fact that someone would say, oh, yeah, I can't, my conscience won't allow me to swear. Thank you, Lord. Is it really something to thank a God for making you feel guilty about something? I don't know, it just seems kind of strange to me. This next post I want to talk about I didn't like because it just feels like weird gatekeeping to Christianity. I know I keep saying this and you guys probably like know this, obviously, if you've seen any of my other videos, but I'm an atheist, but I don't really have problems with people who want to be Christian as long as they're like being good people and stuff. And I think the only thing that makes someone a Christian is they believe in the Christian God and follow the Christian Bible. Do you know what I mean? But then you see posts like this from people who are Christians and just this weird like kind of gatekeeping thing to say like, oh, well, you're not a real Christian if you do this, or you're not a real Christian if you think this or act like this, and I find it really bizarre. But anyway, let's read the actual post. It says, personally, I simply do not understand people who claim to have a relationship with the Lord and then cuss or use vulgar language. I mean, God is holy. He told us also to be holy. I can't see that anyone who has a revelation of the holiness of God, his awesomeness, I can't see how they could cuss. It makes the whole atmosphere dirty, or at least painful. The spirit in me cringes when I hear vulgarity, and no, that does not make me a Pharisee? I'm afraid I don't know that word. Sheesh, lol. I don't know, I find this really bizarre, and it's just words. And I really don't have the issue with it. I don't see why they take such a kind of intense approach to this by saying like, you know, anyone who swears, they're making their atmosphere dirty. Like, it seems really over the top to me. You can have people who believe in God and try and have this relationship with a God who do horrible things. There are plenty of people who are religious and who abuse children, or have been known to sexually assault people, or who have killed people. Sometimes people do horrible things in the name of religion, and while they're horrible, I don't quite know how to put this into words, but I think what I'm trying to say is, even if someone does something bad, it doesn't stop them being a Christian. It doesn't change what their beliefs are. It just makes them a bad person. And that's why I think if I'm judging people, or, no, judging people sounds wrong, but I think if I'm going to make a judgment about someone, that's why I think I base it on their action rather than what group they're a part of. Like, I'd never just turn around to someone and say, oh, well, I don't like you because you're a Christian. I'd say, oh, well, you're a Christian, and I don't like you because you raped 7 children. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, this idea of like gatekeeping and be like, oh, I don't see how you can claim to be a Christian and swear. Ugh. It seems silly to me and a bit unfair, and I don't really like it. And I find it interesting how this is only kind of like a thing amongst religious groups. Like, you never get atheists who are like, oh, well, if you wear blue on Mondays, you can't be a real atheist. Ugh. Or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So this next post I found really interesting, right? Because you guys might know from some of my videos that like I don't really swear much personally, and I don't really say the kind of big swear words, but I will let things out like, oh my god, because it's just, that's the kind of phrase I was sort of brought up hearing and that just slipped into my vocabulary and feels comfortable. It's like an exclamation of shock for me, or like, oh god, I can't believe that. Something like that. It doesn't have any religious connotations to me, and I don't think it's like necessarily a bad thing to say. That is something I've said in front of my bosses before, and no one's ever had a problem with it. It's something I've said in front of teachers and lecturers, and like I say, no one's had a problem with it. I've worked in retail and in bars and said that, and no one's had a problem with it. That said, if I let out like an F word while I was working in a shop, maybe that would have been an issue. So I don't really see that as being an issue. I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's like a bad word as such. But this post reads, there's one cuss word that really gets under my skin. GD. I asked my grandmother as a child. She replied, not a good idea to tell God what to do. The next person replies with, you know, interestingly, even before I became a believer, I felt uncomfortable saying GD or JC as a cuss word. I grew up in the secular world where amongst my peers those were common cuss words, along with others. The first person replies again saying, just one more, a kid in high school wrote, God spelled backwards is dog. I did the wrong thing for a Christian, we went at it. Uh-oh. No one got hurt, but boy, did that spark me up. Okay, so on the one hand, I can understand kind of religious people being offended by us using words like, oh God, or ugh, Jesus. I can kind of understand that, but saying you got into a fight with kids because he wrote God spelled backwards is dog. I'm sorry, but that is a little bit insane and crazy. Whether he meant it in an offensive way or not is not the point. That is simply a fact. You can't change the way it's spelled. I don't understand why you take so much offence to that and why you think it's okay to get into a fight with someone over that, but it's not okay to write it. Rambling again, but the point is, the thresholds for tolerance are so bizarre. The thresholds for what is right and wrong are so bizarre, and they don't seem to be grounded in reality. They're grounded in this random book. And the only reason for something being okay or not okay to a lot of Christians is because, well, God said. You don't think about the consequences on other people. This kid writing the words, God spelled backwards is dog, in the real world, what is the consequence of that? There is none, really. Yeah, maybe some might get a little bit personally offended, if they're easily offended, but there's no real issues or problems with it. But starting a fight with someone, whether it's a verbal or physical fight, yeah, that's a big issue because you can hurt people, including yourself. It could end in the destruction of property. It could end up in innocent people being like dragged in and getting hurt as well. And there are a lot of things that make that wrong. And yeah, I don't know, again, it's just this weird, screwed up kind of morality that just doesn't make sense to me. This person shares the same sentiment though, and they said, when I was a young believer in the Lord, I remember breaking down in tears for accidentally typing the poo word. When in typing class, I never cussed, and then later in my life, I got involved in a spiritual abusive fellowship that messed me up, and I started saying different swear words. It really messed me up, but I hate the GD words, and especially when someone says Jesus' name in a cuss word, it really gets under my skin. So again, this person shares the sentiment of people saying, oh, Jesus, oh, God. But letting it bother you to that extent just seems a little bizarre to me and a little over the top. And the fact that you would feel so much guilt for accidentally typing a word, just a word, not calling someone that word, not saying that word to someone's face, accidentally typing it. You'd feel so much guilt that you break down in tears. That just seems emotionally unhealthy to me. I actually feel really, really sad for this person. I just want to hug her and just say, like, you shouldn't have to live your life with so much guilt over inconsequential things. It just doesn't seem fair to me. This next post I wanted to share it because it was a sentiment that was quite common throughout this thread. It just reads, it's something that I have noticed. My tongue should be used for praise and not such things. Oh, actually, this was a really interesting post. Okay, this one said, accents give us a hint which country you're from. Bad, uncontrolled language with downgrading undertones gives one a hint from which spiritual tribe you belong to. So I'm not sure how I feel about this. I did have a teacher in, I think I was in year 9 or 10 or something like that at school, and full disclosure, I didn't like this teacher. I just didn't like her teaching style. I thought she was quite a rude person, and she had very clear favourites and made other people feel, I'll be honest, pretty bad about themselves. I didn't like her. But one thing that she did say that really stuck with me all these years was that she said she didn't like swearing because it was a sign of unintelligent people. She said intelligent people don't feel the need to swear. And I'm not sure kind of how much I agree with that, because on the one hand, yeah, I have seen some people who aren't the smartest, who when they are angry or when they're upset about something, they do resort to just swearing and swearing because they don't really have the best way to express themselves and that's the only way they really know how. But at the same time, I've seen very, very intelligent people incorporate swearing into what they're trying to say just because they want to, and I don't think there's an issue with that. I've seen very intelligent people make very, very intelligent points, and just because they drop an F this or whatever into what they're saying, I don't think it really diminishes their point. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this, and this idea that the type of language you use hints what spiritual tribe you belong to, I think is a really bizarre one. Because, yeah, if people heard me talk some of the time, and they knew that I didn't swear, and they looked at how I spoke sometimes and stuff, and how, I don't know, what I'm trying to say is that by this logic, perhaps it would look like I was a Christian. Maybe not, but you get the point. Like, I don't think this makes sense. And also, how would you distinguish between Christians and Buddhists and Muslims and Jews and so on and so on? Like, you could say, oh, well, atheists swear and religious people don't, but then how do you determine what religion someone is based on how much they swear or what swear words they say? Like, honestly, I think it's a bit silly, and you can try and make this assumption and say, well, oh, I'm a better person, I'm a better Christian than you because I don't swear, but I think in reality, it doesn't have that effect, it doesn't have that impact, it doesn't tell you that much about someone's belief. But I don't know, that's just my thought, I don't know. Here we have another post that actually made me quite sad for the person who was writing it. They said, I was raised to never cuss. In fact, we wouldn't even watch TV that had a single damn or hell in it. If there were 5 minutes left on the show and someone said damn, it was immediately turned off, no future episodes allowed. My parents never cussed. My dad preached against cussing from the pulpit. Nevertheless, I started cussing as a teenager. The first time I ever cussed, I was actually praying. I know that's odd, but I had a lot of anger about an issue and I wanted to express it, and it felt safe expressing it to God. My cussing was never extreme, but it did become more of a habit than I wanted before I even realised it. I hardly ever cuss now, certainly not around my parents or kids. And this is something that I kind of wanted to talk about, not necessarily to do with swearing in itself, but this idea that, like, turning off a TV program because it says hell or damn, I find that really bizarre. I was never really, like, sheltered from TV like that when I was a kid. I would play, like, horror games with my brother and sister when I was very, very tiny little. I heard swearing on TV, I saw violence on TV, I saw horror films when I was tiny, and it never affected me because I was always told, like, it's fiction, don't be scared, it's make-believe, don't be scared. But often hearing swear words, seeing violence, seeing bad things, taught me mostly about the consequences of it. How saying bad things hurts people. How doing bad things hurts people. You see the consequences of it. And I think just sheltering kids from stuff and saying, oh no, don't want you to hear any swear words at all. Everyone who says a swear word is terrible and bad. Personally, I don't think that's a very healthy way to raise kids. Because it does raise them with this feeling of guilt. This person says, like, they felt bad when they swore and now they don't do it because they don't like it, and it seems bizarre to me. It seems really bizarre. I mean, I was brought up hearing a lot of swearing as a kid. I mean, my brother and sister were teenagers. They were going through their GCSEs when I was like 6 years old, so a lot of swearing there. Yeah, even hearing that from people I loved. I don't swear now because it's not my kind of thing. I don't know. Again, I'm rambling, I'm repeating myself, but the point I'm trying to make is that I don't think it's fair to just shield kids from something and pretend it's not there, pretend it's not happening. It just seems silly to me. This was another post that I found quite interesting. It reads, when I was growing up I had 4 brothers. We lived in the sticks too. My parents never allowed cussing, I never heard my dad cuss. Us kids didn't know where to draw the line. And I think that's the thing, when you don't hear it at all, you don't know what's good, what's bad, you just think it's all bad, and if you want to experiment, you can go too far. But anyway, that's just my opinion. The post continues with, being kids, we had to test the cussing line. We found out there were levels of cussing that were allowed by my folks. We started out with stuff like, God bless a milk cow, or don't cock your leg if you can't run with the big dogs. Literally never heard those in my life. They seem weird, but probably just because I'm a little Yorkshire girl and I'm not up on American cussing. I don't know. Anyway, no problem there. Then we advanced to slang such as golly dang, heck fire, jeez Louise, dag nabbit, darn it, and jumping Jehoshaphat? I want to believe this post is satire. I really do, but I don't think it is. There's nothing wrong with saying golly dang or heck fire, other than you sound like you're from the 50s. We knew some really bad cuss words, but we only used them when we were playing in the woods. One day, I slipped in front of my mum and said a bad cuss word. She washed my mouth out with soap. That's horrible. She told me I did not need to doctor up what I was saying with filthy words. She said, only the dumb ones talk like that and the smart ones will think you're an uneducated idiot. That fixed me. I quit cussing after that. Another person replied saying, I had a similar experience as a young 20-something. I had also slipped into using bad language regularly without realising how it happened. A mentor took me aside and reminded me that every day I was at work, I was on a job interview and asked if I would hire me. After hearing that, I never used that language at work ever again. So again, this comes back to this whole, you know, does swearing make you sound uneducated kind of thing? And I don't know what I think about that. I don't know how much I believe that it does or not. That said, yeah, I do think swearing is inappropriate at work, but if someone said, golly dang, I wouldn't have an issue with it, because, gosh darn, they aren't bad words. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. And I think a parent literally washing their kid's mouth out with soap is horrific, and I do not condone that. And that was another thing that surprised me. There's a scary number of posts on this thread, or like comments on this thread, talking about people who were punished by their parents for a swear word slipping out when they were a kid or something like that, and how their parents would literally stuff a bar of soap in their mouths, or like rub soap on their finger and stuff it in their kids' mouths and things like that. And I'm like, this is horrific, this is horrible. And you can see that it's had like such an effect on the people commenting, and they're like, oh yeah, but it totally taught me a lesson and I'm really thankful for it. And I'm like, are you serious? And there's a lot of people as well who talk about their parents having anger issues and shouting at them and like beating them and stuff for saying swear words, and they talk about it like it's normal, and I'm like, that's not normal, that's horrific and terrifying, and my heart seriously goes out to them. It's not nice at all. But yeah, some of those were a little bit kind of like too horrible for me to want to read. Not nice at all. But anyway, I'm going to end this here, but I'd love to know your thoughts on swearing in general, what you think about swearing as a religious person. Do you think there are certain levels to swearing and some things that are appropriate, some things aren't? Do you think kind of gatekeeping to religions should be done? Do you think you should have people who say, well, you're not a proper Christian if you do this, or you're not a proper Muslim if you don't do this? Do you think that's fair? Can you think of any examples of atheists doing the same thing? Like, off the top of my head, I can't, but maybe there are. People are saying, well, you're not a real atheist if... I don't know. Let me know your thoughts there, because I can't think of any examples, but there probably are some out there, if you can think of any. And, yeah, just let me know your thoughts on some of these posts. I don't want this to be a video, like, I don't want this to seem like I'm mocking these people at all for just sharing their opinion on, you know, a Christian Facebook group. I genuinely want to have a discussion about this, because these are the kinds of opinions and experiences I've never personally experienced in life before. I've never met people like this, so it is all completely new and very, very interesting to me. So I just thought it would be a good one to discuss with you guys, because I like to hear your opinion on things, because you're pretty smart, you know. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling and end this here. If you've made it through this far, thank you so much for watching today and every other day you've been watching my videos. I really, really do appreciate it. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon. You know who's awesome? Everyone who's supporting me on Patreon this month, and that includes Mark Dauner, Lachie Scott, Jadeon Sheppard, Jaylee Moore, Sir Michael Moore, and Matthew Meinema. A huge thank you to all of you and everyone else who is supporting me on Patreon. You're all listed here on the end screen or down in the comments. You guys can go check them out. But for now, just a huge thank you to all of you. I really, really do appreciate it.